will you be my mom's Valentine?
The little girl asked, her voice trembling as she clutched a crumpled card smeared with glitter and crayon hearts. Kang Jisoo, the most dangerous man in Seoul's underground, froze mid-step in the narrow Chicago alleyway. His hand instinctively moved toward the gun holstered beneath his tailored Brioni suit. But when he looked down, all he saw was a small child, no older than 5, with warm brown skin, thick braids tied with pink ribbons, and eyes that shimmered with unshed tears. Behind her, partially hidden behind a dumpster, crouched a young woman. Even in the dim light filtering through the February snow, Jisoo could see the bruise darkening her left cheekbone and the way her hands trembled as she tried to pull the child back. Her dark skin gleamed with a thin sheen of cold sweat, and her natural hair, pulled into a hasty bun, was coming loose around her face. "Kayla, no," the woman whispered urgently. "Come here right now." But the little girl refused to move. She held up the Valentine's card higher, thrusting it toward Jisoo like a shield. "Please, mister. My teacher said Valentine's Day is about love and protection. My mommy needs protection. Will you be her Valentine?" Hi, besties. If you're watching this, you're about to witness the most unexpected love story Seoul's underworld has ever seen. Before we dive in, besties, please do me a favor. Hit that like button right now because this story is going to take you on an emotional roller coaster you won't forget. And if this is your first time here, subscribe and turn on notifications because you'll want to catch every twist and turn. Trust me, you won't regret it. Now, let's get into it. Camille Thompson had exactly $47 left to her name when she fled her apartment in Naperville, Illinois, dragging her 5-year-old daughter through streets she barely knew. The bruises on her face were fresh, courtesy of Deshawn, her ex-boyfriend who'd decided that her tax refund belonged to him. When she'd refused to hand it over, he'd made his displeasure known with his fists. She'd grabbed Kayla, stuffed what little they owned into 2 garbage bags, and run. No plan, no destination, just away. Away from Deshawn. Away from his friends who watched her like vultures. Away from the cramped apartment that smelled of weed and broken promises. Chicago in February was brutal. The kind of cold that seeped through cheap coats and settled into bones. Camille had been walking for hours, trying to find a shelter that had space, when Kayla had spotted the fancy black car idling in the alley. "Mommy, look," Kayla had whispered. "It's one of those cars from the movies. Rich people cars." Camille had pulled her daughter closer, intending to walk past. But then Deshawn's voice had echoed from the street behind them. "Camille, I know you're out here. You think you can just leave." Panic had driven her into the alley, behind the dumpster, pressing her hand over Kayla's mouth to keep her quiet. That's when the man had emerged from the car. He was tall, dressed in a suit that probably cost more than Camille had earned in the last 6 months. His face was sharp, beautiful in a cold, dangerous way. Black hair styled perfectly despite the snow. And his eyes, when they'd swept the alley, were like ice. Camille had recognized danger when she saw it. This man wasn't safe. But when Kayla had slipped from her grasp and run toward him with that ridiculous Valentine's card they'd made in preschool that afternoon, something in Camille's chest had cracked. Because her daughter, her brave, foolish daughter, was asking a stranger to protect them. And the stranger was staring at the card like it was a live grenade. Jisoo didn't do emotions. He'd built his empire on cold calculation, swift violence, and absolute control. At 32, he ran the most profitable operation between Seoul and Chicago, moving money and influence with the precision of a surgeon and the ruthlessness of a warlord. He definitely didn't do Valentine's Day. And he absolutely didn't do crying children holding glitter cards. Yet here he was, staring at this little girl who had no idea she was propositioning the man who'd ordered 3 executions just last week. Kayla. The woman, Camille, finally moved. She stumbled forward, her brown skin ashen with fear, grabbed the child, and pulled her back. "I'm so sorry, sir. She didn't mean to bother you. We'll just—" "Mommy's boyfriend hurt her," Kayla interrupted, her voice rising. "He said he's gonna find us and hurt us more. But you look strong. My teacher said strong people should protect people who need help." It's Valentine's Day. Will you help us? Jisoo's eyes shifted from the child to the mother. He cataloged everything in seconds. The fresh bruise stark against her dark skin, the 2 garbage bags, the way she was positioned between him and the child despite being terrified, the worn sneakers completely inadequate for the snow, the absence of a coat heavy enough for this weather. Running. Desperate. Vulnerable. He should walk away. Get in his car, drive to his penthouse in the Gold Coast, and forget this ever happened. He had a meeting in an hour with the Chongsan faction. He had shipments to oversee. He had an empire that demanded his attention. But then he heard it. Heavy footsteps. Multiple sets. And a voice calling out, "Camille, stop playing games." The woman's face went white, fear making her dark eyes enormous. She grabbed her daughter and the garbage bags, looking around frantically for another exit. But the alley was a dead end. Jisoo made a decision that would change everything. "Get in the car," he said quietly. Camille's head snapped toward him. "What? You want protection?" Jisoo stepped closer, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "Get in the car. Now. Unless you want to face whoever's coming." "I don't know you," Camille said, even as she backed toward the vehicle. "I don't." "Mommy, please," Kayla whimpered. "I'm scared." The footsteps were closer now. 3 men, turning into the alley. Jisoo recognized the type immediately. Street thugs, probably armed, definitely violent. "Last chance," Jisoo said. Camille looked at her daughter, at the approaching men, and then at Jisoo. Whatever she saw in his face made her decide. She yanked open the back door and shoved Kayla inside, diving in after her. Jisoo slid into the driver's seat. His hand moved to the gun in his shoulder holster as the 3 men approached. "Hey!" one of them shouted. "That's my girl. Get out of the car, Camille." Jisoo rolled down his window halfway. His expression was perfectly calm. "Walk away." "The hell?" The man, probably Deshawn based on the possessive snarl, stepped closer. "Who do you think?" Jisoo pulled out his gun and placed it on the dashboard where everyone could see it. "I said walk away." The temperature in the alley seemed to drop another 10 degrees. Deshawn froze. His 2 friends took a step back. "You don't know who you're messing with," Deshawn tried, but his voice had lost its edge. "And you don't know who I am," Jisoo replied, his tone almost bored. "But I promise you this, if you take one more step toward this car, you'll find out. And you won't enjoy the lesson." There was something in Jisoo's eyes, something that people who lived violent lives recognized instantly. Authority. Lethality. The absolute certainty of someone who'd killed before and wouldn't hesitate to do it again. Deshawn backed up. "This ain't over, Camille." "Yes," Jisoo said softly, "it is." He rolled up the window, put the car in gear, and drove out of the alley. In the rearview mirror, he saw Deshawn and his friends watching them go, but none of them followed. In the back seat, Kayla was clutching her mother, and Camille was staring at Jisoo like she couldn't decide if she'd just been rescued or kidnapped. "Where are you taking us?" Camille finally asked, her voice shaking. Jisoo didn't answer immediately. He was still processing what he'd just done. He'd just inserted himself into a domestic situation that had nothing to do with him. He'd just threatened civilians. He'd just brought 2 complete strangers into his car. All because a little girl had asked him to be her mother's Valentine. "Somewhere safe," he finally said, taking a turn toward the Gold Coast. "For tonight, at least." "I can't pay you," Camille said quickly. "Whatever you want, I don't have it." Jisoo's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. "I don't want your money." "Then what do you want?" It was a good question. Jisoo didn't have an answer. Not yet. The penthouse overlooked Lake Michigan from the 68th floor of one of Chicago's most exclusive buildings in the Gold Coast. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city lights reflecting off the frozen lake like scattered diamonds. The interior was all clean lines, expensive minimalism, and the kind of silence that only extreme wealth could buy. Camille stood just inside the doorway, still clutching the garbage bags, afraid to move. Kayla pressed against her leg, eyes wide as she took in the marble floors, the modern art on the walls, the chandelier that probably cost more than every possession Camille had ever owned combined. "You live here?" Kayla whispered, momentarily forgetting her fear in the face of such luxury. Jisoo shrugged off his coat and draped it over a chair. Sometimes. He glanced at Camille, noting how she was shivering despite being inside. The guest room is down that hall. Second door on the left. There's a bathroom attached. You should clean up that cut on your lip. Camille's hand instinctively went to her mouth where Deshawn's ring had split her bottom lip. She'd almost forgotten about it with everything else. I don't understand, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Why are you helping us? Jisoo walked to the bar and poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey. He didn't answer right away. How could he explain that he'd seen something in that alley that had cracked through the armor he'd spent years building? How could he tell her that her daughter's question had reminded him of something he'd buried so deep he'd almost forgotten it existed? Your daughter asked me to, he finally said, taking a sip. I don't break promises to children. It was a lie, of course. He'd broken plenty of promises. But something about the way Kayla had looked at him, with such desperate hope, had made him remember being 7 years old and asking his own father for protection that never came. We'll leave in the morning, Camille said, straightening her shoulders. I appreciate this, really, but we can't stay here. I don't even know your name. Jisoo, he said. Kang Jisoo. I'm Camille. This is Kayla. She paused, then added, and we'll be gone first thing tomorrow. I promise we won't be a burden. You're not a burden, Jisoo said, surprising himself with how much he meant it. And you'll stay until it's actually safe for you to leave. That man, Deshawn. He's not going to just forget about you. Camille's expression hardened. I know. But that's my problem, not yours. Mommy, Kayla tugged on her mother's hand. I'm hungry. The simple statement seemed to deflate all of Camille's defiance. Her shoulders sagged. I know, baby. Let me see what I have in my bag. The kitchen is fully stocked, Jisoo interrupted. Help yourself to whatever you want. Camille looked like she wanted to argue, but her daughter's stomach growled audibly. Pride warred with practicality on her face, and practicality won. Thank you, she said quietly. Jisoo nodded and walked toward his office, needing distance to think. He had calls to make, arrangements to adjust. His meeting with the Chongsan faction would have to be rescheduled. His second-in-command, Taemin, was going to have questions. But as he closed the office door behind him, he could hear Kayla's excited voice from the kitchen. Mommy, look. They have the good cereal. The kind with the marshmallows. Something in Jisoo's chest tightened unexpectedly. An hour later, after Camille had fed Kayla and gotten her settled in the guest room, she found Jisoo standing by the windows, staring out at the city. She'd cleaned up, washed her face, and changed into a clean hoodie from her bag. Without the immediate terror, she looked younger than he'd first thought. Mid-20s, maybe. And beautiful, even with the bruises. She's asleep, Camille said softly, approaching but keeping a safe distance. Kayla. She crashed hard. Today was a lot for her. For both of you, Jisoo observed. Camille laughed, but it was a bitter sound. Yeah, well, not exactly how I planned to spend Valentine's Day. Running from my ex with my daughter in tow. How long was he hitting you? The question was direct, almost clinical. Camille flinched anyway. Does it matter? Yes. She wrapped her arms around herself. 6 months, maybe. It started small. A shove here, a grab there. I kept telling myself it wasn't that bad. That he was just stressed. That I could handle it. Her voice cracked. I was stupid. You weren't stupid, Jisoo said firmly. You were surviving. Camille looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. Why do you care? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Your daughter asked me to be her Valentine, Jisoo said, allowing the smallest hint of a smile. That's a serious commitment where I come from. Despite everything, Camille laughed. A real laugh this time. She's 5. She asks the mailman to marry me at least once a week. The mailman doesn't have my resources. The words hung in the air between them. Camille's smile faded. What kind of resources? She asked carefully. What exactly do you do, Jisoo? He could lie. He probably should lie. But something about the way she was looking at him, wary but not afraid, made him choose honesty. I move money, he said simply. Between countries, between businesses. I facilitate transactions that need to happen outside normal channels. You're a criminal. I prefer entrepreneur. Camille should have been terrified. She should have grabbed Kayla and run. Instead, she found herself asking, "Is that why you had a gun?" "That's why I always have a gun." She should run. Every instinct screamed at her to grab her daughter and leave. But where would she go? Back to the streets? Back to Deshawn eventually finding them? "I need to be honest with you," Camille said, her voice steady despite the fear. "I have nothing to offer you. I'm a waitress, barely making rent even before I left. I don't have connections or money or anything valuable. So if you're expecting—" "I'm not expecting anything," Jisoo interrupted. "You needed help. I provided it. That's all. Nobody helps for free. Not in my experience." "Then your experience is limited." Camille studied him, this dangerous, beautiful stranger who'd appeared in an alley like some kind of twisted fairy godmother. "What happens tomorrow?" "Tomorrow, I make some calls. I ensure Deshawn understands that coming after you would be a very bad idea. And you and your daughter stay here until you figure out your next move." "Just like that. Just like that." "Why?" Camille pressed. "And don't give me that line about promises to children. Nobody disrupts their entire evening for a stranger without a reason." Jisoo was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she'd heard it. "When I was 7, my mother tried to leave my father. He was violent, controlling. She took me and ran, just like you did tonight. We made it 3 blocks before he found us." He paused, his jaw tightening. "I watched him drag her back by her hair while I screamed for anyone, to help. No one did. Everyone just looked away." Camille's breath caught. "Jisoo." "I'm not looking away," he said simply. "Not this time." The vulnerability in his voice was so unexpected, so raw, that Camille felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm sorry that happened to you." He turned back to the window, his reflection ghostly in the glass. "It made me who I am." "I'm not sorry. Are you close to your mother now?" "She died when I was 12. Heart attack, officially. But I think she just got tired of surviving." "And your father?" Jisoo's smile was cold. "He's no longer a problem." The implication was clear. Camille should have been horrified. Instead, she felt a strange sense of justice. "Get some rest," Jisoo said, clearly ending the conversation. "Tomorrow is going to be complicated." "Complicated how?" "Your ex knows what car you got into. That means he can trace the plates if he has the right connections. I need to make sure he doesn't." Fear spiked through Camille. "He's not smart enough for that. You'd be surprised what angry men are capable of when they feel they've lost control." Jisoo finally looked at her again. "But I'm very good at making problems disappear." The words should have sounded like a threat. Instead, they sounded like a promise. Camille nodded slowly. "Okay, thank you. For everything." As she walked back toward the guest room, Jisoo called out Camille. She turned. "You're stronger than you think. Women who run with nothing but garbage bags and hope are the strongest people I know." Tears blurred her vision. "I don't feel strong." "You will." Camille woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of her daughter's laughter. For a disoriented moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then the events of the previous night came rushing back, the bruises on her face a painful reminder that it had all been real. She stumbled out of the guest bedroom, following the sounds to the kitchen. What she found made her stop in her tracks. Kayla was sitting at the massive marble island, swinging her legs and eating what looked like chocolate chip pancakes. And Jisoo, the terrifying man from the alley, was standing at the stove, flipping more pancakes with an ease that seemed completely at odds with everything else about him. "Mommy!" Kayla exclaimed when she spotted her. "Mr. Jisoo makes pancakes. And they have chocolate chips and strawberries." Jisoo glanced over his shoulder, his expression unreadable. "Coffee's fresh. Mugs are in the cabinet above the machine." Camille moved into the kitchen like she was walking through a dream. "You cook. I eat. Therefore I cook." He plated another pancake and set it in front of an empty stool. "Sit. You need to eat." "I'm not really hungry." "Sit." This time it wasn't a suggestion. Camille sat. Kayla was already on her second pancake, chocolate smeared on her cheek, looking happier than she had in months. When Jisoo placed a plate in front of Camille, The smell alone made her stomach growl traitorously. "Thank you," she murmured, picking up a fork. They ate in silence for a few minutes. It should have been awkward, this strange domestic scene. But something about the morning light streaming through the windows and Kayla's contentment made it feel almost normal. "I made some calls this morning," Jisoo said eventually, his tone casual but his words anything but. "Deshaun won't be a problem anymore." Camille's fork froze halfway to her mouth. "What does that mean?" "It means he received a visit from some associates of mine." They explained, very clearly, what would happen if he came looking for you again. Jisoo took a sip of his coffee. "He's relocating to Detroit. Permanently." "You can't just—" Camille stopped, realizing that he absolutely could. "How did you even find him?" "I have resources. I use them." He studied her face, noting the mixture of relief and fear. "He won't bother you again, Camille. You have my word." "What did your associates do to him?" "Nothing permanent. Just persuasive." Kayla looked up from her pancakes, syrup on her chin. "Does this mean the bad man is gone?" Camille's heart clenched. She smoothed her daughter's braids. "Yeah, baby. The bad man is gone." "Good." Kayla went back to eating, apparently satisfied with that answer. Jisoo's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression darkening slightly. "I have a meeting in an hour. You'll stay here. The building has security, and I've informed them that you're my guests. No one gets up here without my permission." "We can't just stay here," Camille protested. "You've done enough. We need to figure out our own." "Where will you go?" Jisoo interrupted, his voice gentle but firm. "Back to Naperville? To a shelter? With $47 and 2 garbage bags." Camille flushed, shame burning through her. "How did you know?" "I checked your wallet last night, making sure you weren't carrying anything that could trace back here." He set down his mug. "Stay. At least until you have a real plan. I have a property manager who handles several buildings. I'll make a call, see what's available." "I can't afford anything in Chicago," Camille said quietly. "Not anything safe. You won't be paying for it." "Jisoo, no. I can't let you." "You're not letting me do anything. I'm choosing to do it." His eyes met hers, steady and certain. "Your daughter asked me to be your Valentine. To protect you. Let me." There was something in his voice, something almost vulnerable beneath the command, that made Camille's protests die in her throat. "Why?" she whispered. "Why are you really doing this?" Before Jisoo could answer, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his entire demeanor changed. The casual breakfast companion vanished, replaced by something cold and dangerous. "I need to take this," he said, already walking toward his office. "Don't leave the penthouse." The moment his office door closed, Camille let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Kayla tugged on her sleeve. "I like Mr. Jisoo, Mommy. He's nice." Camille looked at her daughter's innocent face and felt her heart twist. "Yeah, baby. He is. But what kind of nice man had associates who could make people relocate cities overnight? What kind of nice man carried a gun as casually as other people carried wallets? And why did Camille feel safer with this dangerous stranger than she'd felt in years?" In his office, Jisoo listened to Taemin's report with growing irritation. "The Chongsan faction is not happy you rescheduled," Taemin said, his voice tense even over the phone. "They're saying it shows disrespect. Inwon is making noise about taking his business elsewhere." "Let him make noise," Jisoo replied coldly. "I had something more important to handle." There was a pause. "More important than a $5 million deal?" "Boss, what's going on?" Jisoo glanced toward the closed door, aware of Camille and Kayla just beyond it. "I'm handling a personal matter." "Personal matter?" Taemin's confusion was evident. "You don't do personal matters. You do business." "Well, now I do both. Reschedule for tomorrow night. Same location." "And Taemin? I need you to run a background check for me. Full workup." "On who?" "Deshaun Winters. Last known address, Naperville, Illinois. I want to know everything. Who he works for, who he runs with, what he owes and to whom." "This about the woman and kid you brought home last night?" Jisoo's eyes narrowed. "How did you know about that?" "I know everything, boss. It's my job." Taemin's voice softened slightly. "Security flagged 2 new residents in your penthouse. A woman and a child." I made some calls, got the building footage from last night. Saw you bring them in. And? And nothing. I'm just surprised. You've never brought anyone to the penthouse. Not even the women you. This is different. Jisoo cut him off sharply. Clearly. Wanna tell me why? Jisoo thought about Kayla's crumpled Valentine card, about Camille's fierce protectiveness despite her fear, about the bruises on her beautiful face. No, he said simply. Just run the background check. I want it by tonight. You got it, boss. But Jisoo? Be careful. Getting involved in domestic situations can get messy. Especially when. I said I'd handle it. I know you will. I'm just saying, this woman must be special for you to disrupt everything. Jisoo ended the call without responding. Special. Was that what Camille was? He barely knew her. Yet he'd threatened men, rescheduled crucial meetings, and opened his home to her without a second thought. He looked at the Valentine card he'd picked up from the alley last night, now sitting on his desk. Pink construction paper, uneven crayon hearts, glitter everywhere. A child's simple plea for help. Will you be my mom's Valentine? He'd answered yes. And Kang Jisoo never went back on his word. When he emerged from his office 20 minutes later, dressed in a fresh suit and ready for his meeting, he found Camille washing dishes in the kitchen while Kayla watched cartoons on the massive television in the living room. You don't have to do that, he said. Camille looked up, water dripping from her hands. You cooked. I clean. That's fair. Nothing about this situation is fair. She dried her hands on a towel, studying him. You're leaving. Meeting. I'll be back this evening. He hesitated, then added, there's food in the fridge. Help yourself to anything. The Wi-Fi password is on the refrigerator. And Camille. Yes. Don't answer the door for anyone. Don't go out on the balcony where you can be seen from other buildings. And if anything feels wrong, call me immediately. He handed her a card with his number written on it. Anything at all. Fear flickered across her face. You think Deshawn might. I think I'm cautious. That's all. But Camille could see something else in his eyes. A tension that hadn't been there at breakfast. Jisoo, what aren't you telling me? He looked at her for a long moment. When I ran Deshawn's name this morning, something came up. He's not just some abusive boyfriend. He's connected to a crew that runs protection rackets in Naperville and Oak Park. Small time, but vicious. Camille's blood ran cold. He never told me. Men like him never do. But it means he has resources. And pride. My associates gave him a very clear message, but desperate men do desperate things. Jisoo stepped closer, his voice dropping. That's why you stay here. Where I know you're safe. For how long? As long as it takes. Camille wanted to argue, to insist she could handle herself. But she thought of Kayla watching cartoons, happy and safe for the first time in months. She thought of the bruises on her own face, the ones that were finally starting to fade. Okay, she whispered. We'll stay. Jisoo nodded, something like relief crossing his features. Then he did something unexpected. He reached out and gently touched the bruise on her cheekbone with his fingertips. These will heal, he said softly. And by the time they do, you'll never have to fear him again. I promise. Camille's breath caught at the tenderness in his touch. You keep making me promises. I keep the ones that matter. The meeting with the Chongsan faction was held in a private room at Koi, one of Chicago's most exclusive restaurants in the West Loop. Jisoo arrived exactly on time, flanked by Taemin and another guard, Minwo. The Chongsan representatives were already seated, 3 men in expensive suits with expressions that ranged from annoyed to hostile. Inwon, the faction leader, didn't stand when Jisoo entered. A calculated insult. You're late, Inwon said in Korean, though it was a lie. Jisoo was precisely on time. I'm exactly when I need to be, Jisoo replied smoothly, taking his seat. Shall we discuss business, or would you like to continue with petty displays of dominance? Inwon's eyes narrowed. You reschedule our meeting with less than an hour's notice, and you call my response petty? I call it what it is. You're angry because I made you wait one day. If your operation is so fragile that a 24-hour delay threatens it, perhaps we shouldn't be doing business at all. The temperature in the room dropped. One of Inwon's men shifted, his hand moving toward his jacket. Minwo mirrored the movement. Taemin remained perfectly still, but his eyes tracked every person at the table. "Gentlemen," Jisoo said, his voice cold as winter. "Let's not make this unpleasant. We all have money to make. The question is whether we make it together or separately." Inwon stared at him for a long moment, then laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "You've changed, Kang. A year ago, you would have had a gun to my head for that kind of disrespect. Now you negotiate like a businessman." "I've always been a businessman. I just used to be less patient about it." "And what's made you so patient suddenly? Or should I ask who?" Inwon leaned back in his chair, a knowing smile on his face. "I hear you have house guests. A woman and a child. Very domestic for the Ice King of Chicago." Jisoo's expression didn't change, but Taemin felt the shift in the air. "Dangerous. Deadly." "My personal life is not your concern," Jisoo said quietly. "It is when it affects business. You've never brought a woman into your home. Never. And suddenly you're rescheduling meetings, changing routines." Inwon's smile widened. "She must be very special. Or very good in bed." Jisoo stood. The movement was fluid, controlled, but everyone in the room recognized the threat. "This meeting is over," he said. "Sit down, Kang. I'm just making conversation." "No. You're testing boundaries. And you've just crossed one." Jisoo buttoned his jacket. "The deal is off. Find another partner for your soul expansion." Inwon's smile vanished. "You're walking away from $5 million over a joke about some woman?" "I'm walking away because you've shown me you don't understand respect. And men who don't understand respect make poor partners." Jisoo turned toward the door. "Taemin, we're leaving." "Wait." Inwon stood now, his composure cracking. "Kang, don't be foolish. This deal benefits both of us." Jisoo paused at the door. "Then you should have conducted yourself like it mattered. My offer expires in 48 hours. If you want back in, you'll come to me. And you'll come respectful." He left without waiting for a response. In the car, Taemin let out a low whistle. "That was risky, boss. Inwon has connections throughout Seoul. Walking away could cost us." "Let it cost us," Jisoo said, staring out the window at the Chicago skyline. "I won't work with men who think they can insult what's mine." "So she is yours?" Taemin asked carefully. Jisoo didn't answer. He wasn't sure himself. But the rage that had filled him when Inwon spoke about Camille that way had been primal, possessive, undeniable. "The background check," Jisoo said, changing the subject. "What did you find?" Taemin pulled out a tablet and brought up a file. Deshaun Winters, age 28. Multiple arrests for assault, battery, drug possession. No convictions. He always walks on technicalities or witness intimidation. He's been running with the Naperville Vipers for 3 years. They're small-time, mostly protection rackets and drug distribution in the western suburbs. And Camille. Clean. Completely clean. Camille Thompson, age 26. Born in Atlanta, moved to Chicago 5 years ago. Works at 3 different restaurants, all waitressing gigs. No criminal record, not even a parking ticket. Single mother. Daughter is Kayla, age 5. Father unknown, not listed on the birth certificate. Jisoo absorbed this information. What else? She's got medical debt. About $30,000. Kayla was hospitalized 2 years ago, some kind of respiratory infection that went bad. Camille didn't have insurance. She's been paying it off in installments, but she's behind. $30,000. For Jisoo, that was pocket change. For Camille, it was a crushing weight. "Pay it off," he said. Taemin looked up sharply. "Boss? You heard me. Pay off the medical debt. Anonymously. Make it look like a hospital charity program or something. That's not exactly subtle. She'll know it was you." "I don't care. Do it." Taemin made a note on his tablet. "Anything else?" "Yes. I want security on Deshaun. 24/7 surveillance. If he so much as looks in the direction of Chicago, I want to know about it." "Already arranged. I put 2 men on him this morning after your associates paid their visit." "Good." Jisoo leaned back in his seat. "And Taemin? Find out everything you can about Camille's employment. Which restaurants, what shifts, how much she makes. I want to know what her life looked like before." "Before what?" "Before me." When Jisoo returned to the penthouse that evening, he found it transformed. Not physically, the furniture was still in the same place, the art still hung on the walls. But something about the space felt different. Lived in. Warm. Kayla's drawings were spread across the coffee table. A child's jacket hung on the back of a chair. And from the kitchen came the smell of something cooking and the sound of Camille humming softly. Jisoo stood in the entryway, arrested by the domesticity of it all. In the 3 years he'd owned this penthouse, it had never felt like a home. Just a place to sleep, to work, to exist between the demands of his empire. Now, in less than 24 hours, these two people had made it feel like something else entirely. "You're back," Camille said, appearing from the kitchen. She'd changed into jeans and a simple sweater, her natural hair pulled back into a ponytail. The bruises on her face were darker today, purple and yellow, but her eyes were brighter. "I hope you don't mind. I found some chicken and vegetables in your fridge. I made dinner." Jisoo set down his briefcase. "You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. It's the least I can do." She wiped her hands on a towel. "How was your meeting?" "Complicated." "That's a very diplomatic answer." He almost smiled. "I walked out." Camille's eyebrows rose. "Was it that bad?" "Someone said something I didn't appreciate. I made my position clear." "Let me guess. Something about me and Kayla." Jisoo's silence was answer enough. Camille's expression softened. "Jisoo, you can't blow up business deals because of us. We're not worth." "Don't." His voice was sharp. "Don't tell me what you're worth. That's not your decision to make." "Then whose decision is it?" "Mine." He stepped closer, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "You're under my protection now." "That means something." "It means anyone who disrespects you disrespects me. And I don't tolerate disrespect." Camille's heart was hammering. "This is crazy. 2 days ago, I didn't even know you existed. Now you're walking out of meetings and threatening people because of me." "Yes. That's not normal, Jisoo." "I'm not a normal man, Camille." His eyes held hers. "And this situation stopped being normal the moment your daughter asked me to be your Valentine. She's 5. She doesn't understand. She understood enough to know you needed help. She understood enough to trust a stranger because she was desperate. And I understood enough to know that walking away would haunt me for the rest of my life." Camille's breath caught. "Why?" "Because I've walked away before. From people who needed help. From situations that weren't my problem. And every single time, I regretted it." His hand came up, hesitating just before touching her face. "I'm not walking away from you." "Mommy." Kayla's voice broke the moment. She came running from the living room, launching herself at Camille's legs. "I drew you a picture. It's you and me and Mr. Jisoo at the park." Camille picked up her daughter, grateful for the interruption. Her heart was doing complicated things, and Jisoo's intensity was making it hard to think straight. "That's beautiful, baby. Why don't you show Mr. Jisoo?" Kayla turned her wide eyes to Jisoo, thrusting the paper at him. "See? That's you. You're really tall, so I had to use the whole paper." Jisoo took the drawing carefully. 3 stick figures, one much taller than the others, standing under a scribbled tree. The tall figure was holding hands with the medium and small figures. "We're a family in the picture," Kayla explained. "Because families hold hands." Something in Jisoo's chest cracked open. He looked at the crude drawing like it was the most precious thing he'd ever been given. "It's perfect," he said quietly. "Thank you, Kayla. You can keep it if you want. I'll make more." "I'd like that very much." Camille watched the exchange, her throat tight with emotion. This dangerous man, who carried guns and made people relocate cities, was staring at her daughter's drawing like it had just rewritten his entire world. Maybe it had. Maybe it had rewritten both of theirs. 3 days passed in a strange, suspended reality. Camille and Kayla settled into the penthouse like it was the most natural thing in the world. Jisoo went to meetings, handled business, and came home to find dinner waiting and a little girl who'd started calling him Mr. Jisoo, with increasing affection. It was on the 4th morning that everything shifted. Camille woke to find Jisoo already in the kitchen, coffee brewing, but his expression was darker than usual. Taemin stood beside him, tablet in hand, both men speaking in rapid Korean. "What's wrong?" Camille asked, fear immediately spiking through her. Jisoo looked up, his face carefully neutral. Deshawn left Detroit. My men lost him somewhere near Gary, Indiana. Camille's blood ran cold. He's coming here. We don't know that for certain. I know him. He doesn't let things go. Her hands started shaking. Oh God, I should have known. I should have. Camille. Jisoo crossed to her, gripping her shoulders gently. Look at me. He cannot get to you here. This building has security that rivals the Pentagon. Every entrance is monitored. Every elevator requires a keycard. He'd have to get through 12 armed guards just to reach this floor. You don't understand. Deshawn is crazy when he's angry. He doesn't think about consequences, he just acts. Taemin cleared his throat. There's more, boss. We picked up chatter this morning. Deshawn's been talking to people, asking questions about you. About who you are, what you do. Jisoo's jaw tightened. Let him ask. He won't like the answers. Actually, Taemin continued carefully, he might. Some of the people he's talking to are suggesting he go to the Chongsan faction. Inwon, specifically. The name hung in the air like a bomb. Inwon, Camille repeated. The man from your meeting? Jisoo's expression had gone completely cold. Taemin, increase security. Double shifts. I want eyes on every entrance, every camera, every possible access point. And put out feelers. I want to know the second Deshawn makes contact with Inwon. Already done. Taemin glanced at Camille. Ma'am, you and your daughter should stay away from the windows today. Just as a precaution. Camille nodded numbly. After Taemin left, she turned to Jisoo. This is my fault. I brought this to your door. No. Deshawn brought this to my door when he decided to come after you. Jisoo's voice was steel. And he's about to learn that was the worst mistake of his life. Jisoo, please. Don't do anything that could. Could what? Put me in danger. He laughed, but it was a harsh sound. Camille, I've been in danger since I was 16 years old. This is just another Tuesday for me. But this is different. This is because of me. Yes, it is. He stepped closer, his eyes intense. And that makes it personal. Which means I'm going to handle it personally. Before Camille could respond, Kayla emerged from the bedroom, rubbing her eyes. Mommy? Why are you talking so loud? Camille immediately shifted, forcing a smile. Sorry, baby. We didn't mean to wake you. Come on, let's get you some breakfast. But Kayla was looking at Jisoo, her young face suddenly serious. Mr. Jisoo? Are the bad guys coming back? Jisoo knelt down to her level, his expression softening in a way Camille had never seen. Not if I can help it, little one. But what if they do? Then I'll do what I promised. I'll protect you and your mommy. Do you trust me? Kayla studied his face with the solemn intensity only children possess. Then she nodded. I trust you. You're like the knights in my books. They always keep their promises. Something fierce and protective flashed across Jisoo's face. Always. By midday, the tension in the penthouse was suffocating. Jisoo had been on the phone for hours, speaking in Korean, his voice alternating between cold command and barely controlled rage. Camille kept Kayla occupied with coloring books and cartoons, but her daughter wasn't stupid. She knew something was wrong. When Jisoo finally emerged from his office, his expression made Camille's stomach drop. What happened? Deshawn made contact with Inwon 2 hours ago. He told him everything. About you, about how you're staying here, about how I threatened his crew. Jisoo's voice was carefully controlled. Inwon sees an opportunity. What kind of opportunity? The kind where he uses Deshawn to get to me. He's offering protection, resources. He's going to help Deshawn find a way to you. Camille felt the room spin. Why would he do that? Because I embarrassed him. Because I walked out of our meeting. Because he wants to prove that I'm not as untouchable as people think. Jisoo's hands clenched into fists. He's using you to send a message. Then I'll leave. I'll take Kayla and go somewhere far away. California, maybe. Or, no. The word was absolute. You're not running anymore. Jisoo, I can't let you start a war over me. The war already started. The moment Inwon decided to involve himself, he made this about more than you. This is about respect, territory, power. If I back down now, every faction in Chicago and Seoul will see it as weakness. Camille's eyes filled with tears. I never wanted this. I just wanted to keep my daughter safe. Jisoo crossed to her, cupping her face in his hands. And you will. I will. But not by running. By ending this. How? By doing what I should have done from the beginning. By making it clear to everyone in the city that you and Kayla are untouchable. That anyone who comes after you is signing their own death warrant. The certainty in his voice should have terrified her. Instead, Camille felt something else. Something warm and dangerous that had been building since that night in the alley. Why are you doing this? She whispered. Really? No more stories about promises or the past. Why? Jisoo's thumb traced the fading bruise on her cheekbone. Because in 4 days, you've made me feel more human than I have in 15 years. Because your daughter draws pictures of us as a family, and it makes me want things I thought I'd killed in myself. Because when I come home and smell dinner cooking and hear you humming in the kitchen, this place finally feels like more than just expensive walls. Camille's breath caught. Jisoo. Because I'm falling for you, Camille. And I don't know how to stop. The confession hung between them, raw and honest. Camille should pull away. Should remember that this man was dangerous, that his world was violence and shadows. But all she could think about was how safe she felt when he was near. How Kayla smiled more in 4 days than she had in months. How he looked at her daughter's drawing like it was worth more than all his money and power combined. I'm scared, she admitted. Of me? Of this. Of feeling something for you when I barely know you. Of what happens when this situation is over and real life comes back. What if I don't want it to be over? Jisoo asked quietly. What if I want this to be real life? Before Camille could answer, his phone rang. The ringtone was different, urgent. Jisoo answered immediately, his expression hardening as he listened. When, he demanded. How many? A pause. No. Absolutely not. I'm on my way. He ended the call and looked at Camille, something like regret in his eyes. I have to go. There's a situation at one of my warehouses in Bridgeport. It might be related to Inwon, might not. But I need to handle it personally. You're leaving. Panic edged into Camille's voice. Taemin and Minwo will be here within 10 minutes. Full security detail. No one gets in or out without my authorization. He grabbed his jacket, checking his gun with practiced efficiency. I'll be back in a few hours. 3, maybe 4 at most. What if something happens while you're gone? Jisoo pulled out a different phone from his desk drawer and handed it to her. This is a direct line. Only 3 people have the number. You, Taemin, and Minwo. If anything, and I mean anything, feels wrong, you call. I don't care if it's just a strange sound or a bad feeling. You call, and I'll come back immediately. Camille took the phone with trembling hands. Be careful. Something softened in his expression. He stepped close, pressed a kiss to her forehead, lingering. I'm always careful. It's everyone else who should worry. After he left, the penthouse felt too big, too quiet. Kayla sensed her mother's anxiety and stayed close, unusually subdued. When Taemin and Minwo arrived with 2 additional guards, Camille felt marginally better. But the weight of the phone in her pocket was a constant reminder that danger was circling closer. 2 hours passed. Then 3. Camille tried to distract herself with cooking, with playing games with Kayla, with anything that would stop her mind from spiraling into worst-case scenarios. She was reading Kayla a bedtime story, her daughter finally relaxing against her, when she heard it. A sound so faint she almost missed it. A scrape, like metal on metal, coming from somewhere beyond the penthouse door. Taemin heard it too. He immediately signaled to Minwo, both men drawing their weapons with silent efficiency. One of the other guards moved to position himself between Camille and the door. Get in the bedroom, Taemin whispered urgently. Lock the door. Don't come out until I tell you it's safe. Camille scooped up Kayla and ran. Behind her, she heard Taemin speaking rapidly in Korean into his radio. She slammed the bedroom door, locked it, and looked around frantically for somewhere to hide. The closet. She pulled Kayla into the massive walk-in closet, buried them behind Jisoo's suits, and covered her daughter's mouth with her hand. Shoo, baby. We're playing the quiet game, remember? Like hide and seek. Kayla nodded against her palm, eyes wide with fear. Outside, Camille heard voices. Sharp commands. Then a sound that made her blood freeze. Gunshots. Multiple. The distinctive crack of firearms in an enclosed space. Kayla whimpered. Camille pulled her closer, her own heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. She fumbled for the phone Jisoo had given her, hands shaking so badly she almost dropped it. She dialed. It rang once. Twice. Camille. Jisoo's voice was sharp with concern. What's wrong? Guns, she whispered, barely able to form the words. Shooting. Outside the bedroom. Jisoo, I think they're inside. Where are you exactly? Jisoo's voice was deadly calm, but Camille could hear the sound of him running, car doors slamming. Closet. Master bedroom. We're hiding behind your suits. Good. Stay there. Don't make a sound. I'm 10 minutes away. She heard him shouting orders in Korean. Camille, listen to me very carefully. Taemin has a panic protocol. The bedroom door is reinforced steel. It can withstand sustained assault for at least 15 minutes. You're safe in there. There were gunshots, Jisoo. So many gunshots. I know. I'm coming. Just hold on. The line stayed open. Camille could hear the roar of an engine, the squeal of tires. Jisoo was driving like a madman through Chicago traffic. In her arms, Kayla was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. Outside the bedroom, the shooting stopped. The silence that followed was somehow worse. Camille heard footsteps. Heavy. Multiple sets. Then a voice that made her blood turn to ice. I know you're in there, Camille. Deshawn. He was actually here in the penthouse. Come out, baby. We just want to talk. Camille's hand tightened on the phone. Jisoo heard it too. She could hear him cursing viciously in Korean. Don't respond, Jisoo said urgently. Don't let him know where in the room you are. Camille. Deshawn's voice got louder, angrier. You think you can just run off with our daughter? Get some rich Korean dude to protect you. That's my kid in there. He wasn't Kayla's father. He'd never been. But arguing that point through a locked door seemed pointless. We've got all night, baby, Deshawn continued. His voice was slurred. Hi. He was drunk or on something. Your boyfriend's guards are dead. All of them. You got nowhere to go. In the phone, Camille heard Jisoo's sharp intake of breath. He's lying. Taemin just checked in. 2 guards are down, injured but alive. Taemin and Minwo are barricaded in the kitchen. They're holding position. How did he get in? Camille whispered. Inwon gave him access codes, security overrides. He came up through the service elevator with 4 men. Jisoo's voice was pure fury. I'm 8 minutes out. Just hold on. Another voice joined Deshawn's. Older, smoother. Speaking in accented English. Miss Thompson, my name is Inwon. I believe you've heard of me. I have no quarrel with you or your daughter. This is business between myself and Kang Jisoo. Come out, and I give you my word you won't be harmed. He's lying, Jisoo said immediately. The moment you open that door, you're leverage. And Inwon kills leverage when it's no longer useful. Camille believed him. She pressed her face against Kayla's hair, breathing in her daughter's familiar scent, trying to stay calm. Mr. Kang is very protective of you, Inwon continued. He walked away from a very profitable partnership because of you. That tells me you're valuable to him. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to open this door, come out peacefully, and we're going to have a conversation about how Mr. Kang can make this situation right. 6 minutes, Jisoo said. Camille could hear sirens in the background. I've called the CPD. They're responding, but they won't get there before me. And if you don't come out, Inwon's voice hardened, we'll break down this door. It might take time, but we'll manage. And when we do, Mr. Winters here won't be quite so patient. Something heavy slammed against the bedroom door. Then again. They were battering it. Kayla screamed against Camille's hand. Camille's whole body was shaking now, terror threatening to overwhelm her ability to think. Mommy, Kayla whimpered. I'm scared. I know, baby. I know. But Mr. Jisoo is coming. He promised to protect us, remember? For minutes, Jisoo said. Camille, I need you to do something for me. In the closet, on the top shelf on the right side, there's a black case. Can you reach it? Camille looked up, still holding Kayla with one arm. She saw it, partially hidden behind shoeboxes. She stretched, grabbed it, pulled it down. I have it. Open it. She did. Inside was a handgun, smaller than the one Jisoo usually carried, and 2 full magazines. Oh God, Jisoo, I can't. Yes, you can. Have you ever fired a gun? No. Never. It's loaded. Safety is on, that's the small switch on the left side. Flip it down to fire. Point at center mass, squeeze the trigger, don't jerk it. The recoil will surprise you, but the gun won't hurt you. I can't shoot someone. You won't have to. I'll be there in 3 minutes. But if that door comes down before I arrive, if they come into that room, you aim that gun at them and you pull the trigger. You protect your daughter. Understood. The battering continued. Boom. 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 The door was reinforced, but it wouldn't hold forever. Camille looked at Kayla's terrified face. At her baby girl who'd asked a stranger to be her mother's Valentine because she knew they needed protection. At this precious child who'd already seen too much violence in her short life. Understood, Camille whispered. She flipped off the safety with shaking hands. 2 minutes, Jisoo said. I'm in the building. Coming up the stairs. Outside, she heard Inwon's voice. Enough. Use the torch. Cut through the hinges. A new sound. The hiss and spark of a cutting torch. They were going to burn through the door. 90 seconds, Jisoo said. Camille could hear him breathing hard, running. Taemin, Minwo on my signal. Camille, when you hear gunfire in the hallway, that's me. Stay down, stay hidden. Don't come out until I call for you. The bedroom door was glowing red where the torch hit it. Smoke started seeping into the room. Kayla coughed, and Camille pulled her sweater over her daughter's nose and mouth. 60 seconds. The first hinge gave way with a metallic screech. 45 seconds. The second hinge was halfway through. 30 seconds. Get ready. Then, from the hallway, an explosion of sound. Gunfire, rapid and precise. Shouting in Korean and English. The cutting torch clattered to the floor. More gunfire, closer now. Jisoo's voice, cold and lethal, cutting through the chaos. Everyone on the ground. Now. Deshawn's panicked response. Man, I didn't know. The sound of someone being hit. Hard. I sat on the ground. More sounds of struggle. Then silence. Terrible, complete silence. Camille, Jisoo's voice, but not from the phone. From outside the bedroom. It's safe. You can come out. Camille didn't move. Couldn't move. Her legs had stopped working. Camille, it's me. It's over. Open the closet. She heard the bedroom door being pushed open, the damaged hinges scraping. Footsteps approaching the closet. She raised the gun with both hands, pointing it at the closet door, even though every instinct told her it was Jisoo. The closet door opened slowly. Jisoo stood there, gun in hand, blood spattered across his white shirt. But his eyes, when they found hers, were gentle. It's okay, he said softly. You're safe now. Both of you. Camille's arms gave out. The gun dropped to the floor. Jisoo caught it, engaged the safety in one smooth motion, then pulled both her and Kayla into his arms. I've got you, he murmured against her hair. I've got you. Camille sobbed against his chest, great heaving cries of relief and terror, and something else she couldn't name. Kayla clung to both of them, her small body shaking. Is anyone dead? Camille finally managed to ask. No. Though several people wish they were. Jisoo's voice was grim. Deshawn is in custody. Inwon and his men are being detained by my people until the police arrive. Taemin and Minwo are injured but stable. You're bleeding. Not my blood. Somehow that should have horrified her. Instead, Camille just held on tighter. Police sirens were getting louder outside. Jisoo gently disentangled himself and looked at Camille seriously. When the police get here, you tell them the truth. All of it. Deshawn's abuse, the threats, how he broke in. Let them know you are in fear for your life. What about you? Your business, is about to become very public, yes. But that's not your concern. He cupped her face. You and Kayla are my only concern right now. 2 hours later, after police interviews and paramedics and more questions, the penthouse was finally quiet again. Crime scene tape cordoned off parts of the hallway. The damaged bedroom door had been temporarily secured. Jisoo had arranged for them to sleep in one of the other bedrooms, this one with even more security measures. Kayla had finally fallen asleep, exhausted by terror and tears. Camille sat on the edge of the bed, watching her daughter breathe, making sure she was really okay. Jisoo appeared in the doorway, showered and changed, the blood and violence washed away. But Camille could see the weight of it in his eyes. The police found evidence linking Inouan to 3 other break-ins and 2 murders, he said quietly. He's not getting out. Ever. And Deshawn is facing multiple felony charges. Attempted kidnapping, breaking and entering, assault with a deadly weapon. His public defender is already talking about plea deals, but he's looking at 20 years minimum. It's really over? It's really over. Camille should have felt relief. Instead, she felt hollow. What happens now? Jisoo sat beside her on the bed, careful not to wake Kayla. Now you decide what you want. I've already arranged for an apartment in your name. Street or ill, good neighborhood, safe building. 3 bedrooms, fully furnished. First year's rent paid. Your medical debt has been cleared. And I've set up a trust fund for Kayla. Education, medical expenses, whatever she needs. Camille's throat tightened. You're sending us away. I'm giving you choices. Options you didn't have before. He looked at her, something vulnerable in his expression. After tonight, you've seen what my life really is. Violence, danger, police investigations. That's not something I can change, Camille. It's who I am. And I won't ask you to accept that for yourself or your daughter. What if I want to? Jisoo's eyes widened slightly. What? What if I want to stay here with you? What if tonight scared me, but losing you scares me more? Jisoo stared at her like she'd just spoken a foreign language. Camille, you can't mean that. You don't know what you're saying. Don't tell me what I know. Camille's voice was stronger now, certain. I'm 26 years old. I've been taking care of myself since I was 17. I've survived abuse, poverty, being a single mother with no support. I think I can decide what risks I'm willing to take. This isn't just risk. It's danger. Constant, ongoing danger. What happened tonight could happen again. Different enemies, different threats, but always something. Just his hands clenched into fists. I can't guarantee your safety. Or Kayla's. No matter how many guards I hire, how many precautions I take. You think I was safe before you? Deshawn would have found me eventually. Would have hurt me, probably worse than before. At least with you, I have protection, resources, people who actually care whether I live or die. Camille reached for his hand. Jisoo, for the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe. Like there's a future beyond just surviving to the next paycheck. And yes, tonight was terrifying. But you came. You kept your promise. You protected us. I almost didn't make it in time. But you did. And you would again. I know you would. She squeezed his hand. Tell me you don't feel this. This thing between us. Tell me it's all in my head and I'll take that apartment and disappear. But if you feel even a fraction of what I'm feeling, then we need to talk about what comes next. Jisoo was silent for a long moment, his thumb tracing circles on the back of her hand. When he spoke, his voice was raw. I haven't let anyone close in 15 years. Not since my mother died. I built walls so high I forgot what it felt like to want someone in my life for reasons beyond business or strategy. And then you appeared in that alley and your daughter asked me to be your Valentine, and suddenly I'm rearranging my entire world around 2 people I barely know. So what does that mean? It means I'm terrified. He looked at her, really looked at her. Because wanting you, wanting this, it makes me vulnerable. And vulnerability in my world gets people killed. Or maybe, Camille said softly, it makes you human. Maybe it gives you something worth protecting beyond money and power. Jisoo pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. You make me want impossible things. Like what? Like a normal life. Coming home to dinner and drawings on the refrigerator. Teaching Kayla to ride a bike. Waking up next to you every morning. Growing old together. He laughed bitterly. People like me don't get those things. Why not? Because I've done terrible things, Camille. I've hurt people. Killed people. My hands are stained with blood that will never wash clean. I don't care. You should. But I don't. She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. I see you, Jisoo. Not the criminal, not the dangerous businessman. I see the man who makes pancakes for a little girl he just met. Who keeps her drawings like they're precious art. Who listened to me cry about my life and didn't judge. Who risked everything to keep us safe. Her voice broke. That's the man I'm falling for. Not the monster you think you are. Jisoo's control finally cracked. He kissed her, deep and desperate, pouring everything he couldn't say into the contact. Camille kissed him back with equal fervor, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jisoo rested his forehead against hers again. If we do this, there are conditions. Okay. You and Kayla get full security. 24/7. Guards, cameras, panic buttons. I know it seems excessive, but it's non-negotiable. I can live with that. You'll need to learn self-defense. Real training, not just basics. And how to shoot properly, not just in a crisis. All right. And Kayla. He hesitated. She's young. She doesn't understand what I really do. But as she gets older, there will be questions. Difficult ones. About why we have guards, why we can't just go anywhere we want, why other kids' parents don't live like we do. We'll handle it together. Age-appropriate honesty. We'll figure it out. You're sure about this? Because once you're in, once you're really part of my life, there's no going back. People will know about you, about Kayla. You become leverage targets. Everything changes. Camille thought about the apartment in Naperville. The 3 jobs she'd juggled. The constant fear of Deshawn showing up. The loneliness of facing everything alone. Then she thought about the past 4 days. Safety. Warmth. Someone who actually cared. And she thought about how Kayla smiled now, really smiled, in a way she hadn't since she was a baby. I'm sure, she said. We're already in, Jisoo. The moment we got in your car, we were in. Now we're just deciding whether to make it permanent. Then we do this right. Jisoo stood, pulling her to her feet. Tomorrow, we start fresh. New security protocols. Proper documentation. And I introduce you to my world, the parts that matter. The people who work for me, the businesses that are legitimate, the life we could actually build together. What about the parts that aren't legitimate? Those stay separate. As much as possible. You'll know enough to be safe, but not so much that you become complicit. I won't do that to you. And us? What are we exactly? Jisoo smiled, a real smile that transformed his entire face. Well, technically, I'm your daughter's Valentine. I think that makes you mine by association. Camille laughed, the sound light and genuine. That's the worst definition of a relationship I've ever heard. Then how about this? He cupped her face in his hands. You're mine. I'm yours. We figure out the details as we go. But we do it together. Together, Camille echoed. I like the sound of that. They stood there for a moment, just holding each other, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows. Behind them, Kayla stirred in her sleep, mumbling something about dragons and knights. She talks in her sleep, Camille whispered. Always has. Usually about the stories we read before bed. What story was tonight? The one where the knight saves the princess and they live happily ever after. Jisoo's expression turned wry. Life isn't a fairy tale, Camille. No, it's better. Because it's real. She kissed him softly. Now come to bed. You've had a long day of rescuing damsels in distress. Just one damsel. And she rescued herself, really. I just provided backup. They climbed into bed, careful not to wake Kayla. Camille curled against Jisoo's side, his arm around her, her head on his chest. It should have been awkward, this new intimacy. Instead, it felt like coming home. Jisoo. Thank you. For everything. For stopping in that alley. For not walking away. Thank your daughter. She's the one who asked. She has good instincts about people. Apparently so. He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be intense. Why? Because tomorrow I'm taking you to Aspen. Camille lifted her head, staring at him in confusion. What? Why Aspen? Because I own a house there. Very private, very secure, very far from Chicago and everything that just happened. You and Kayla need a break. some space to process. And I need to make sure my business here is locked down tight before we settle into whatever this new normal looks like. Jisoo, I can't just go to Aspen. I have jobs, responsibilities. You had jobs. Past tense. I'm not letting you go back to waitressing 12-hour shifts for minimum wage. Not when I can provide better. Camille stiffened. I'm not a charity case. I never said you were. But you're also not going to kill yourself working 3 jobs when you don't have to. We're together now, Camille. What's mine is yours. That includes financial security. I need to contribute. I need to work to feel like then work for me. I have legitimate businesses that need good people. A restaurant group, for one. You have experience in hospitality. I'm sure we can find a position that fits your skills and gives you the independence you need without the exploitation you've been dealing with. Camille wanted to argue. Pride demanded it. But the truth was, she was exhausted. Exhausted from struggling, from barely surviving, from the constant weight of wondering how she'd make rent or pay for Kayla's next doctor's visit. Okay, she finally said. But I want a real job. With real responsibilities. Not some made-up position where I just collect a paycheck. Deal. Now sleep. The jet leaves at 9. You have a private jet? Several. Comes with the territory. Camille shook her head, but she was smiling. My life has gotten so weird. Weird good or weird bad? She thought about it. About the danger and the guards and the man beside her who'd killed people, but also made pancakes for her daughter. About the impossibility of this entire situation and how right it somehow felt anyway. Weird good, she decided. Definitely weird good. Outside, Chicago sparkled in the winter night. Inside, 3 people who'd found each other in the most unlikely circumstances finally rested. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new adjustments, new questions about how to blend 2 completely different worlds. But tonight, they were safe. They were together. And for now, that was enough. The house in Aspen was more of a compound, sprawling across 10 acres of pristine Colorado mountainside with views that looked like something from a postcard. Floor-to-ceiling windows, stone fireplaces, heated floors, and enough space that Kayla literally ran screaming with joy through the halls when she first saw it. "This is like a castle," she shouted, her voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings. "Mommy, we're living in a castle." Camille stood in the entryway, overwhelmed. The penthouse in Chicago had been impressive, but this was something else entirely. This was wealth on a scale she'd never even imagined. Jisoo watched her reaction carefully. "Too much. I don't even know what to say." "Say you'll be happy here." "For a few weeks at least, until things settle down in Chicago." He moved closer, taking her hand. "I know this is a lot. The money, the lifestyle, all of it. But I need you to understand something, Camille. This isn't me showing off. This is me making sure you and Kayla are protected while I handle the fallout from Inwan's arrest." "What kind of fallout?" Jisoo's expression darkened. "The kind where his associates might try to retaliate. Where questions get asked about my business dealings. Where the police start looking more closely at my operations. I've got lawyers handling it, but it's going to be messy for a while. I'd rather you be far away from that mess." "And you? Where will you be?" "Back and forth. I can't abandon Chicago completely, but I'll spend as much time here as possible." He squeezed her hand. "I'm not leaving you, Camille. I'm just being strategic." She nodded, understanding even if she didn't like it. "How long do you think before things calm down?" "A month. Maybe 2. Inwan's arrest is causing a power vacuum. Various factions are going to try to fill it. I need to make sure the right people end up in the right positions, or everything I've built could collapse." "Is that dangerous?" "Everything I do is dangerous. But I'll be careful. I promise." Kayla came running back, breathless and glowing. "Mr. Jisoo, there's a room with bunk beds. Can that be my room? Please." Jisoo knelt down to her level. "Any room you want, little one. This whole house is yours to explore. Even the big room with all the books? Especially that room. It's a library. Every book in there is yours now." Kayla threw her arms around his neck with such force, he nearly toppled over. "You're the best Valentine ever." Over her daughter's head, Camille met Jisoo's eyes. There was something there, something warm and vulnerable that made her heart squeeze. This man, who ordered people around like chess pieces and commanded an empire built on shadow and steel, was melting under the affection of a 5-year-old girl. That night, after Kayla was asleep in her chosen room with the bunk beds, Camille and Jisoo sat by the fireplace with glasses of wine, watching snow fall softly outside the massive windows. "Tell me about your businesses," Camille said. "The legitimate ones." Jisoo raised an eyebrow. "Suddenly interested in my portfolio? I'm interested in understanding your world. You said we'd figure this out together. That means I need to know what I'm part of." He considered this, then nodded. "Fair enough. I own a chain of restaurants. 8 in Chicago, 5 in Seoul, 3 in New York. High-end Korean fusion, very successful. I also have real estate holdings across multiple states, commercial and residential. That's where most of my legitimate income comes from. And the illegitimate income? Comes from facilitating transactions between parties who can't use traditional banking systems. Moving money across borders, laundering profits from various enterprises, providing financial services to people who operate outside the law." He took a sip of wine. "I don't deal drugs. I don't traffic people. Those are my hard lines. But I do enable others to move their money, and I don't ask too many questions about where it came from." "That's still illegal." "Yes, it is." Camille absorbed this. "Are you planning to stop?" "Eventually. I've been working toward legitimizing everything for the past 3 years. Slowly divesting from the illegal operations, building up the legal ones. It's a delicate process. You can't just walk away from this world without consequences. But you want to? Walk away eventually." Jisoo looked at her, then at the hallway where Kayla slept. "I didn't before. Before, this was all I had. The empire, the power, the respect. Now I have something else. Something I want to protect more than any business deal." He set down his glass. "Yes, I want to walk away. Build something clean. Something I can leave to Kayla someday without shame." "Kayla? You're thinking that far ahead. I'm thinking about everything now. College funds. Trust accounts. What happens if something happens to me? I've already drafted new will provisions. If I die, everything goes to you and Kayla. The legitimate holdings, at least. The rest gets liquidated and donated to various charities." Camille's throat tightened. "Jisoo, that's too much. It's not enough. You've given me something I thought I'd never have. A family. A reason to build instead of just maintain. Let me do this. Let me take care of you both." She moved closer, curling into his side. "I'm still getting used to this. To you. To all of it. I know. Take your time. What if I never fully get used to it? What if there's always a part of me that's uncomfortable with the money and the guards and the dangerous parts of your life? Then we work through it. Together." He tilted her chin up. "I'm not asking you to be someone you're not, Camille. I'm just asking you to be here. The rest we figure out as we go." She kissed him, soft and slow, tasting wine and promise. When they broke apart, she whispered, "I love you. I know it's fast and probably crazy, but I do. I love you." Jisoo's eyes widened, genuine surprise crossing his features. "You can't. It's been less than a week. I know. But I also know what I feel. You don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know." He pulled her closer, burying his face in her hair. "I love you too. God help me, I do. I've loved you since you stood between me and Kayla in that alley, terrified but refusing to back down. Since you laughed at your daughter asking the mailman to marry you. Since you made pancakes in my kitchen like you belonged there." His voice cracked slightly. "I love you, Camille Thompson. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it." 3 weeks later, Chicago was still complicated, but Jisoo had managed to stabilize his position. Inwon was awaiting trial, his faction in disarray. Deshawn had taken a plea deal, 25 years with possibility of parole in 15. The investigation into Jisoo's businesses had stalled for lack of concrete evidence, helped along by excellent lawyers and strategically placed connections. Camille had started working remotely for Jisoo's restaurant group, handling social media and marketing. It wasn't glamorous, but it was legitimate work she was good at, and it gave her the independence she needed. Kayla was thriving, attending a small private school in Aspen where she talked endlessly about her library at home and the nice man who made her pancakes. On Valentine's Day, exactly 1 year after Kayla had asked a dangerous stranger to be her mother's Valentine in a Chicago alley, Jisoo took them both to dinner at the finest restaurant in Aspen. Kayla wore a pink dress she'd insisted on picking herself. Camille wore emerald green, elegant, and beautiful. And Jisoo wore a suit that probably cost more than the first car Camille had ever owned. Over dessert, Jisoo pulled out a small box and handed it to Kayla first. Inside was a necklace with a small heart pendant. "For the girl who saved my life," he said seriously. Kayla beamed. "I didn't save your life, Mr. Jisoo. You saved ours. You saved my life in the ways that matter. You reminded me that there's more to living than just surviving." Then he turned to Camille and pulled out another box. This one held a ring. Simple, elegant, a single diamond set in platinum. "I know we've only known each other a year. I know there are 1,000 reasons this is too fast, too complicated, too risky. But I also know I don't want to spend another day without you officially being mine." He took her hand. "Camille Thompson, will you marry me?" Camille's eyes filled with tears. Around them, other diners were starting to notice, whispers and smiles spreading through the restaurant. Kayla was bouncing in her seat, nearly vibrating with excitement. "Say yes, Mommy. Say yes." Camille laughed through her tears. "You really want to marry a single mother with debt and baggage and a complicated past?" "I really want to marry the woman who's made me believe in futures instead of just surviving the present. The woman who trusts me despite knowing what I've done. The woman whose daughter asked me to be her Valentine and changed my entire world." Jisoo's voice was steady, certain. "So yes, I want to marry you, complications and all." "Then yes. Yes, I'll marry you." Jisoo slid the ring onto her finger as the restaurant erupted in applause. Kayla squealed and launched herself at both of them, wrapping her arms around their necks. "We're really a family now," she announced proudly to anyone who would listen. "Mr. Jisoo is going to be my daddy." Later that night, after Kayla was asleep and they were alone on the balcony under the stars, Camille leaned against Jisoo's chest, the ring glinting on her finger. "A year ago, I was hiding behind a dumpster with $47 and 2 garbage bags," she murmured. "Now I'm engaged to a man who owns half of Chicago and has a house in Aspen." "A man who loves you," Jisoo corrected. "Everything else is just details. Important details. Not as important as this. As us. As the family we're building." Camille turned in his arms. "Do you ever regret it? Stopping that night? Getting involved in our mess?" Jisoo thought about it seriously, then shook his head. "Never. Not once. That night, a little girl asked me to be her mother's Valentine. She asked me to protect you. To be something more than what I was. And I said yes. Best decision I ever made. Even with all the complications? Especially with all the complications. They made me human again, Camille. They gave me a reason to build something clean, something good. You and Kayla are my redemption." "That's a lot of pressure. You can handle it. You're the strongest person I know." She kissed him under the Colorado stars, surrounded by mountains and snow and the life they were building together. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. There would always be questions, complications, the shadow of Jisoo's past hovering at the edges. But it was real. It was theirs. And it had started with 4 simple words from a 5-year-old girl in a Chicago alley. "Will you be my mom's Valentine?" He had said yes. And that yes had changed everything. Thank you so much for watching this incredible journey from that frightening alley to this beautiful mountain paradise. If this story touched your heart, if you felt every moment of fear, hope, and love right alongside Camille, Kayla, and Jisoo, then please hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel for more emotional stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Share this video with someone who believes in second chances and unexpected love. And don't forget to turn on those notifications so you never miss another story. Your support means the world, and it helps us bring you more content like this. Drop a comment below and let me know what you thought. Did you see that ending coming? What was your favorite moment? I read every single comment. Until next time, Remember that sometimes the best love stories start with the simplest question from the purest heart.